What's up? Good morning. It's your guy, your man, your boy, L to the B. So I'm tuning in on this Thursday and I have some news to report that basically I don't know what I consumed or what I did yesterday, but I ended up having some sharp pains on my right side in lower quadrant. It wasn't really like in the appendix area. I've pressed in those areas, don't have any pain, but it was something. I don't know what it was. So from that point on, it's been decease. I've stopped behaviors. I was eating like peanut M&Ms and like I started to feel the pains, but then I was like, just have a few more, and that was like I already knew to stop, and I just did a little bit more, and I'm not happy about that. You think like a peanut M&M, like what's the deal there, man? Well, who knows? Maybe I got an allergy. I don't know, but I need to listen to my body, and the fact I wasn't listening to my body is a big red flag. I also have like a lot of things on my plate. You know what? There is the spice of life, is what I figured out. Maybe between last night and this morning. Do I feel good this morning? Yeah, so far I'm okay. I have some like weird things that happened in between the bladder, and that's all other things that started to transpire after that. If I drink some water, boom, I'm having issues. So it's something with my kidneys. But the last time I've had some pains like that, oh, and if I spoke, so I was speaking as I was like playing this video game, and every time I was speaking, I would have these pains start to generate up, and I'm like, what? Why is my talking causing me pain? Maybe I talk too damn much. So I'm still at a loss for words about like how how drinking water and talking influences pains on my body. But it doesn't matter. Spice of life, guys and gals. If you're watching this, we got to get out and get doing what the hell we're supposed to be doing with our days. We have lists that we've set up. We've had ideas. We have thoughts. We have beliefs. We have stuff that we need to get going and doing. We can't wait around on for some of you, the Messiah to save us, because you've already been saved, if that's the philosophy you want to prescribe to. Number two, we can't wait around for AI to save us, which you might have called Messiah. So don't mistake that one. And I guess you can wait around for it, but what are you going to do in the meantime? This is the whole point to this little small talk for this morning, and I hope this is encouraging if I decide to go back and rewatch it. I usually don't rewatch any of my content. I don't know why, but I just make it and post it. So, what are you going to be doing in the meantime? You're not living, that's for sure. You've got a body that functions. You got things that can work for you. Go out and do something. You're an influence in other people's lives just by being present. So go out and be present. If there's some ability that you think you can strive and thrive to go do, go do it. Go see if you can do it. Go see if you can pull it off. Find the motivation. If you can't get it just watching me, or you can't get it trying to drum it up inside you, watch something. Usually whatever I'm looking at is dictating how my behavior is going to transpire. And if you just feel like you're just tired of sitting on your lump, well, that's part of it. So sometimes we get in between this, and I don't know, maybe it's depression. I don't know what to call it. But we get into moments where we're tired to do stuff. We don't feel like doing anything. We're not even interested in like things that would normally be interesting to us. Like for me, I don't even really want to date. I keep coming back to this notion that maybe I'm just not ready to date a woman. And I don't know. I mean, this girl that is interested in me, she's coming up with different ideas and stuff for me to do with me, her, and my daughter. Seems pretty cool. She's very intelligent. She's thoughtful, very thoughtful. And until I know more, that's what I have to go on, and that's what I believe in. But why am I not interested? I'm not interested in maybe the crazy chick. Maybe this is what we end up finding out as empaths, or if you're just a nice person, or whatever you run into with a narcissist. Maybe the reason that they're there is to help with their narcissistic behavior. Let's not describe it any more than that. Maybe that's to help you turn things around. Like they serve as a placeholder for getting you maybe back to a positive state, because maybe they generate something inside of you. So let's not just totally push down narcissist, okay? Maybe you're at your weakest, and that's when they show up. That's when I've always had them show up for me, is when I'm at my weakest, or I'm in a transitioning moment, that's usually where they pop in. So maybe if you're hearing this, they're there to spark hope, happiness, all these little different things that when you find someone that's maybe positive in your life and going to be cheering you on, you didn't necessarily want that person to begin with. You didn't respond there. That's why your attraction level goes like this. You get into low moments and you find lower energy that meets your standards and meets what your desire level is at that moment. And then maybe when you start to get high, well, they don't climb to that level and they would prefer to keep you down there or lower. And so that's the experience that you have between that, energy dynamic versus somebody that is in the higher state and they're trying to pull you up, but you're almost playing the narcissist at this point. You don't want to be pulled up, but you're not necessarily pulling them down. You just don't want to be pulled up. And that's the whole point, is that you don't want to be pulled up. So what can you do if you are not attracted or you're not pulled to somebody who's trying to pull you up, and instead are happy by the sparks and the excitement that you get from the narcissist community that helps in short term give you that sugar rush, but long term give you bad health outcomes? What do? How do you get that jolt? How do you get that spark? And how can you choose wisely and want to choose wisely? Because basically, what's left on the table is choice. It's an inevitable, question at the end of the day that the Matrix brought up, is that it leads to choice. Do you choose a disciplined, organized route over what your immediate and current and present feelings and desires are telling you? This is the pathway for all your decision making in your life. Do you take this short little burst of fun, action, whatever it gives you, you have that, and then experience long-term pain? This is all across all levels. This seems to be a dynamic truth, that you can pick all of these little short-term fun. Like, let's say that I didn't save well, or I'm not good with my money, and I splurge. I'm going out and I'm buying. It's the exact same thing. You're fulfilling the addiction moment. But there is the long haul. There is the extended version that you're somewhat having to play with here and project that you're going to even have. You may not think that you're going to have this long futuristic life, and you better take the moment now. In which case, is it wrong to take all those simple pleasures in the moment? I think this is a perspective that people need to entertain. And I don't know. What do you guys think? My day's a little different today. Long-term pleasure, short-term pain. Imagine all the people, and you know the ones I'm talking about. They stuck it in there. They decided to do some short-term pain. And trust me, it was short-term pain. Don't let them believe you that it was fun. Oh, I just got excited about. Well, then that kind of defeated the purpose, didn't it? Like, there's no energy differential. So I think people need to understand there's supposed to be an energy differential. That when you do this one energy and then you release, you have the abundance of the other energy. The toiling in the soil and the planting and the nurturing and the all of that goes inside of the hard work, which it should be work, it should be energy pouring in, and it should be difficult energy. This is what I'm trying to get at. This is the planter or the farmer, that when their crop grows, they have tenfold the amount than what they planted. And remember, it is what they planted. It could be, they could have planted nightshade, which is like one of the things I like that I think it's Earl Nightingale brought up. You have two things you can plant. You can plant tomatoes, and sure as daylight, they'll grow up and come up out of the ground, and you can plant nightshade, and they'll come up too. And one kill you, and one, well, both are from the nightshade family, I think. So one's long term, one's short term. But you get the point. At least the short term, difficult, hard moments, when they pour out greatly. So that is the essence of doing that which is maybe not desirable, because there will be the moment later that you've invested in right there in the hard time that will benefit you and give you nourishment and long-lasting well-being for the future. And that is a projected future. We do not know our times. We do not know our dates. We do not know anything that's going on in this experience. There could be a lot of things that happen, and it could be a lot of things that could derail or try to miss or redirect you from that positive outcome or fruits that you receive. I mean, you got to guard against your harvest too. And this is something that Jim Rohn talks about. Just because you planted and you just think it's automatically going to grow up and you don't have to do anything about it. Like, no, there's animals and insects that will come in and take your harvest. So you have to kind of do battle against those forces for a time so you can reap and pour and store where you need to get this stuff at so that you keep your harvest. And some harvest doesn't last long. Some of it has long expiration dates, some have short. So I think like the philosophies of life can be found in farming. And if you don't farm, it's pretty clear that you won't get anything, at least ways in this setup, until things finally move along in the abundance track and where things can kind of become a little bit more secondhand, second nature. Until that point comes, there is efforts in and rewards out. And if you don't put any effort in, there's very little reward out. So I know you may be depressed. I know you may not be feeling well. Or you may be thinking like, I have no motivation to do any of this stuff. I'm just too down and out. Well, believe me, if you're there, it can always get worse. And think about what you did in this whole journey. You might have made it, let's say hypothetically, you made it halfway up the mountain. You could have made it up a quarter of the way of the mountain, where sometimes a quarter of the way of the mountain felt like halfway of the mountain. Now, I gave you two scenarios there. The halfway point, the quarter way point, and the quarter feeling like the halfway point. My point to this is, if you go all the way back to the bottom, imagine then the rewalk. And how many times do you do that? Imagine you just keep coming back up to quarter mountain and like, oh, go back down. Imagine you keep coming up to the halfway mark, you go back down. And that feeling, if it's struggling and arduous, this is almost a farmer that plants continuously and does not reap the rewards, or has rewards that they could reap, but instead lets the wolves and the deer and the insects take their harvest. I'm speaking on this matter because I feel like it's a reflection in my own life. It may seem like silly advice. It may seem like silly philosophy. But to somebody that's paying attention and watching this, they know damn well what I'm speaking is the truth. I've said it for, God, probably 10 plus years probably way longer than that. Short-term pain, long-term pleasure. I always felt like that's the way forward for me. But most of the time, I get caught up in the short-term pleasure, long-term pain. Or I play in versions of both. And it ends up resetting the whole experience. Remember, the short-term pleasure is usually one that'll just totally just blow everything up. For example, And I'm going making this a little lengthy, but somebody that's watching this will get it. I reap my harvest, and instead of storing it properly and having something in abundance for me, or sharing the information with somebody else so that they could also build a harvest, or any of these scenarios, what I've decided with this whole process, if I just take my harvest and I just go, I don't care what happens to it, it's a free for all, I'll go have fun, and you just be free with it, you're just having so much liberty with it, well, that's okay, maybe on a spiritual plane. You got something, you got a reward, and you decide to give it all away. You then have to look at, is this going to come back and benefit you? How did you give it away? Did you just let it go to waste giving it away? Meaning that you weren't really thoughtful about how you gave it away. You just said, whatever happens, I can do it again next year. But then you left none of it for yourself? You're starting back over from zero. It's no different from not doing battle. It's the exact same thing. So let's say you worked hard to get the harvest. You either figure out ways to maintain it, scale it, grow it, so then you do have some to offset. What if you grew so much, planted so much, that you had enough for the battle? Imagine that. You grew enough that you were able to supply the insects, supply the deer, and if in case you have meat or something like this, you are able to feed the wolf and the pack and harvest and take some for yourself. You have to plan accordingly. But if you gave it all away, where would you be at then? Zero. Ground zero. And somebody might say that this is codependency, or in a different situation, that you have this outpouring of doing for the other all the time, and you never do anything for yourself. You never take up arms and reflect upon your individuality in this collective and say, what are you doing to better this part of the system to make the other part of the system thrive? Remember, I want you to keep this in mind before you start to go off and think you're not one, and you start to make yourself just one piece and you're independent from the whole thing. Think about it like this. We've heard the phrase, you're only as strong as your weakest link. What is the weakest link? The link is a chain. We are the chain. That is the whole symbology of this process. That a chain is together, but it has links that connect it. That's how something is all as one and independent. That's why I say the universe works in paradoxes. So you're only as strong as the weakest link. So now I've got your all as one package in here for spirituality. I've also taken care of you self-identifying as an individual. And so what does that all entail? Pouring into yourself, your individual self, and raising the level to where you're no longer becoming or being a part of this weak link in the chain. Strengthens the chain. Now, how do we do this? Can the chain do something about its link? Yes. In my opinion, while the link is trying to better itself to strengthen the chain should also pour into that. So it's a twofold system. And most of the time, when the link is making some steps there, hopefully it is, there are portions and pieces of the chain that will come out and seek to support it in its growth. But it only meets people or meets the link where it's at. So if you don't put much in, that's okay. You build it up day by day. Pretty soon you're thriving. You might already be a support might already have strengthened enough of the chain. And eventually it will come back and reinforce and bring that whole piece up. But my point, I guess the point I'm making to all that is, do your part not to become the weakest link in this chain of the Creator. And you're not the weakest, I promise. There's no real thing to that. But if you're identifying what your state is, and you have thoughts and beliefs, or maybe you have desires. Somebody says, what's your purpose in life? Your purpose maybe is your desire. And you really need to understand what that desire entails. Is my desire just in a short-term moment right now and just pleasing it and doing all this hedonistic behavior? Or is my desire into the aspects of aspirations of the future? Maybe it's something that I'm looking forward to doing it. And now I relegate the present to building frameworks for that, because it takes some time to bring the imagination into this space sometimes. So that's what your whole drive, your whole intention should be on. Desire, purpose. Put those two right there together and start working and figuring that out. In my intentions and the way that I like things going in my world and life, I prefer not to be in the weakest link state. When we get up and it's time for us to pull and we're in tug of war with life, I don't want to be the one on the team not pulling his weight or being unable to pull his weight and saying, wow, I don't have any strength. And in most cases down the road, the earth just wipes you off of it. You die then. You get to your weakest point. That's it. So I get back to the point, if you can get something, you can do something, you feel like you got some drive, and if you don't, pray for it. I did it. I feel like it did something magical in my life. Figure out how to get your vitality back so that you get your momentum and drive, and then start ironing out some disciplines that will allow you to build the bricks for a foundation of a future positive life. This is all I'm going to share about it this morning. I think the super blue moon obviously caused some weirdness in my in just my thinking, my whole approach. I feel a bit weird today, which is, I didn't feel like this whole past 15, 20 days. Today I feel different, really different, spiritually different. I don't know how that's going to play out. But I'm going to play around in this space and we're going to see what happens in the dream state. So you guys have a wonderful day. Thank you for listening if you paid attention. And I hopefully sparked something interesting in your life to get something done. Take care.